I wanted to get married again because...
You want to share this life with somebody.
Well, it's definitely in our hearts for companionship. There's a reason that desire in our heart is there. I mean, God has given us that desire.
Yeah, initially, I didn't think I would want to get married again.
I don't think I necessarily did want to get married again, or at least I didn't think that I did.
Honestly, I don't know that I did. I was at the point of, after 5 years of being single, in and out of relationships, where I had given it up.
When I met her, that kind of changed my whole perception of what I thought a relationship could be.
When I met Nicole, and all of a sudden, I all of a sudden wanted that again. That came as a surprise. It wasn't something I was looking for.
It just felt right, and I knew it was right for the first time ever.
All right, you guys, so right off the bat, are you ready for remarriage? I mean, this is different than entering marriage for the very first time, isn't it? Because there's special issues.
Yeah, special issues. It's a hopeful time. It's a redemptive time. It's an exciting time, but it's not something you want to walk into lightly because you know firsthand that there can be pain, and so what you want to do is prepare and enter it wisely.
We know this from research. There's special challenges facing couples that are married for a second time, whether it's both of them or just one of the persons in the couple. And so let's talk a little bit about this, because these challenges are things that we want to face head on by looking at a few reasons people shouldn't get married.
You know, for me, this was my second marriage, and so there were a lot of things that when I started a relationship with Nicole that were new to me compared to my first marriage. It seems silly to say, but I don't think I ever had experienced what it felt like to have somebody really be into you. I didn't have that so much in my first marriage, and that was a very exciting thing to experience. Also, I always had clung in my first marriage to this idea that opposites attract, and I know that they can, but I experienced a lot of the oppositeness, and Nicole and I are similar in very many ways, and what a pleasant experience to be with somebody who just looks at things the same way you do.
These are reasons that you don't want to jump into marriage quickly, right?
Yeah, there's some reasons that motivate people into a marriage that can be dangerous and don't bode well.
Yeah, love at first sight, that emotion that overwhelms us. That's not a good reason.
Not too reliable, actually, when it comes to wisdom.
Certainly on the rebound, getting married on the rebound.
I think when you initially separate from somebody, I think you try to just find somebody else initially. And I think normally what you end up finding is like, you haven't taken the time to actually heal emotionally and realize that there was a big loss, actual big loss in your life. And I think once you kind of acknowledge that, I think that makes it easier to kind of take the next steps to really sit down and decide what is it that you want from life, whether it's a relationship, whether it's other personal goals. And I think once you've kind of made some of those decisions, it makes it easier to make decisions on what you want your next steps to be and move on from there.
Yeah, and I want to speak to that because here's what happens just as human beings when we, especially for those who have gone through the heartbreak of loss, maybe they've lost someone they love dearly, either, by death or divorce. When your heart's broken, you're vulnerable, right? And so your self-esteem is sometimes fragile and you don't have the kind of judgment you normally do. And so sometimes on the rebound, you can step into a relationship that you would never be tempted to choose in any other life situation.
Rebellion is another one you want to avoid, obviously.
Well, yeah, because that doesn't have to do with so much choosing what you want, but maybe choosing something out of revenge to get back at somebody who's hurt you. And anytime you're reacting against something instead of choosing for yourself, danger.
And that often goes hand in hand with married on the rebound too. But loneliness, obligation.
Yeah, and sometimes just financial gain or stability. I mean, there can be the stress of trying to provide and struggle on your own if you've got a family to care for. And so sometimes that temptation for financial stability.
Escaping a situation that you want to get out of and think this is your answer, pressure from the outside. All these are reasons.
Or just plain loneliness.
Yes.
You know, just that devastation that anything would be better than this, which of course is not the case.
Right, exactly. The most important reason to get married is found in a very simple word, and that's companionship. It's friendship. That's the motivator, right? These other things that we look at might contribute if you're at an unhealthy place, but this is what you want to make sure is at the center of that is companionship.
Yeah, just the joy of a shared life, you know, that doubles your joy and halves your sorrow, and just walking in wide-eyed to that shared journey with another person, of course, is the most stable reason for
Because,
remarriage.
you know, life is better with this person on your side.
We just have so much fun together. It sounds corny, but he really is my best friend.
There are so many reasons.
It's just better because I have someone that I know is on my side and in my corner and really wants the best for both of us.
He has been somebody who has helped to bring healing into my life.
It's really wonderful to do life together with Heather.
That's sweet.
So right here at the start, when you're launching this experience, I want to make sure you're fully aware of the His/Her workbooks, because as you read through the book, you're going to want to apply it. It's one thing to read it, it's quite another thing to put it into practice in your life, and you can begin using them in this very first session. When we look at remarriage, we also look at the marks of readiness for remarriage.
Exactly, which is so important when it comes to remarriage. You want to understand, am I truly ready? And part of that is, am I ready personally? And so you want to look at how much, just sort of how much you like yourself and know yourself right now.
I took my initial time getting into the relationship and taking the time to really talk to him, get to know him before I even, we had so many emails go back and forth between us before we ever met face to face. And so I really just wanted to take that time. I felt like in my previous relationship I had rushed in. I was young, I was 22 and kind of probably more in love with the idea of getting married than in love with a man that I was with at the time. And so taking that time, really making sure that I built that foundation and really knew the person I was gonna marry the second time around.
My first marriage, I was really young, and I was really kind of just in the party scene, and I guess immature and not really understanding a lot of basic principles in life, if you will, and not making right choices, and getting married for many wrong reasons. And I still kind of had a desire to be married, knowing that was there, but not really having discernment or understanding or letting God direct that decision and helping me choose that.
I had been divorced long enough and single long enough to where that hurt was pretty much behind me. I really wasn't hurting from that past relationship. But until I could learn to like and love myself, there was no way I could love anybody else.
But once I had that relationship with God established and begin to get into His Word and get established into a local church and learning all about what it is to live life with Him and how awesome that is, that triggered a whole new world of what the next marriage would be like.
If you're in an unhealthy position, that's not going to bode well for moving into this second marriage at this time.
But it's not just personal readiness and stability and well-being and health. It's also relationship stability and well-being and health. You know, how long have you been connected to this person, and how stable has your relationship been? In other words, did you have stormy times, or has it been pretty steady as she goes?
We never once had to pretend. Never once.
easy.
And we filled each other's needs without even trying. And was the beautiful thing for me.
It was easy. There
was-
wasn't a doubt in my mind.
Yeah, mine either.
Ever.
Meeting her was kind of, like I said, refreshing to have somebody who was really more focused on their kids and the overall goals that they had in life.
I remember sitting down, talking to him, and I hadn't planned on it, but I ended up kind of pouring my whole heart out to him, my whole story.
When I met him, he was someone that I could see myself being old and ugly with and raising my children and our children together with.
I can get very emotional about it, even talking about it, because it was such a huge just answer to prayer.
We just started up the hill walking, and I just kind of had this, whoa.
The rest is history.
And I have time to think about it. I have time to talk to people about it. I have time to really consider it. And yet, I will say, there was really never any, I don't know, there was never any real choice. I mean, I although I considered it, and although I talked to people about it, I was always convinced.
But when I saw all that start to come back alive, it was pretty cool.
You couldn't resist.
I just couldn't. I knew it.
Well, here's what we can tell you. Your marriage can only be as healthy as the two of you. And that's why it's so important to take a very serious look at your personal readiness, as well as that relational readiness that has to do with stability, as you said, and all the other markers. So,
And when you're clear about that, what a gift to step into this new relationship with grace, redemption, and joy, because you know you're prepared.
yeah, and the truth is that when you have awareness, when you have the tools that you need for a second marriage, you know you're going to go the distance. And even though the odds may not always be in your favor, you've got to work at it. That's the key, right? It's not something you just kind of ride the waves of love and somehow this is going to work out. You got to be intentional, and that's why you're part of this series with us right now. It speaks volumes that you're a part of it. Yeah, so we're wishing you every great success and blessing as you work hard to enjoy life, lifelong love with your soulmate on this second journey. Well, and for couples where one or both are entering a second marriage, I think that the SYMBIS assessment is critical, because one of the things it'll do is to help you understand your relational readiness as well as your personal readiness, and to help you also kind of magnify those motivators and look at each one of them honestly. So, super powerful tool.
We're Chris and Tony, and we just got married.
We met about 1.5 years ago, and Chris proposed to me by surprising me on my family vacation to Maui. It was the best proposal ever.
So after Tony and I got engaged, we talked about how committed we want to be towards our marriage, which is why we decided to take the SYMBIS assessment.
We'd read the book, and we learned about the assessment. It was a no-brainer.
It showed us how our personalities mesh and how we can better leverage ourselves for one another.
It was great to learn about expectations, who's going to do what, and it was really helpful to learn about unspoken rules we had in our families bringing forth into our marriage.
It feels really good knowing that we are doing everything we can to start off our marriage on the right foot.